My parents threatened to sue for grandparents' rights to my child because I won't let them babysit. I never imagined my own parents would turn against me like this, but here I am, their only daughter, being sued by them for visitation rights to my little girl. I'm still in shock writing this. My hands are literally shaking. This whole mess feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from, and I need to vent and maybe get some advice, because I'm terrified and heartbroken. Let me back up and give some context. I, 28F, have a daughter Emily, 3, with my husband, 30M. My parents, 55F and 58M, have always been difficult people, to put it mildly. Growing up, my mom was controlling and emotionally abusive. Nothing I did was ever good enough. She had to micromanage every aspect of my life, and my dad mostly enabled her or stayed quiet. As soon as I turned 18 and moved out for college, I kept my distance, but I still tried to maintain a relationship in hopes they'd mellow out someday. When I got married to my husband, David, my parents were upset that we didn't do the wedding exactly how my mom wanted. She threw a fit over the guest list, the venue, even my dress. We went low contact after that, but when I got pregnant with Emily, they suddenly took interest in my life again. I was hesitant, but also foolishly hopeful that becoming grandparents would soften them and maybe heal some old wounds. Spoiler, it did not. From the moment Emily was born, my mom, I'll call her Linda, acted more like Emily was her baby than mine. In the hospital, she was upset I wouldn't let her in the delivery room. Then when we brought Emily home, she came over unannounced constantly, criticizing how I was feeding and caring for the baby. If Emily cried, Linda would snatch her from my arms, insisting she could calm her because Grandma knows best. She undermined me at every turn, giving Emily formula behind my back when I was breastfeeding because she thought I wasn't producing enough, putting her to sleep on her stomach despite me begging her not to, for safety reasons. My dad would just shrug and say, "You know how your mother is." The real trouble began when Emily was around 2. My husband got a job opportunity that required him to travel for a few months for training. Around the same time, I was diagnosed with a serious heart condition. I needed surgery and a lengthy recovery. Despite my complicated history with my parents, they offered to help take care of Emily during this time. I was desperate and vulnerable, so I agreed to let them watch her at their home while I focused on getting better. It was one of the hardest decisions of my life. I had a gut feeling it could go wrong, but I told myself maybe this time they'd do the right thing for Emily's sake. Emily stayed with my parents for about 4 months, which were the longest months of my life. I missed her terribly, but I was too weak post-surgery to care for her on my own, and David was away training and only able to visit occasionally. I video called almost daily, but soon my mom started making excuses why Emily was unavailable or why the calls had to be short. When I did manage to talk to my daughter, she often looked confused or upset, like something was off. I began to fear my mom was saying negative things about me or alienating my daughter somehow. I even heard my mom in the background once prompting Emily to call her Mama. I immediately corrected it, saying, "Hi baby, Mama's right here, I miss you." My mom scowled and claimed it was just a slip of the tongue. I felt sick. During that period, my mother also refused to acknowledge Emily's developmental needs. Emily has a slight speech delay. Nothing severe, but we had been working with a pediatric speech therapist before my surgery. My mom insisted nothing was wrong, and that we were making her seem deficient. She canceled Emily's therapy appointments without telling me, saying her methods were enough since she has 30 years of childcare experience. For context, she ran a small daycare out of her home years ago, and she's always bragged like she's the world's foremost childcare expert. When I found out she stopped the therapy, I was livid. We had a huge argument over the phone. She basically said I was raising my child to be weak and coddled, and that Grandma knows best. I was too physically drained to fight her on every point, and being hundreds of miles away, they live in Pennsylvania, we're in Ohio, made it harder. I documented everything though. I saved emails and texts where she admitted skipping therapy in case I needed proof later. By month 4, I decided enough is enough. My health had improved significantly. Even if I wasn't 100%, I needed my daughter back home. David had finished his training and came with me to my parents' house unannounced to pick up Emily. My parents were surprised and not happy. My mom tried to suggest we leave Emily with them just a few more weeks because she's not ready to transition back. I told her absolutely not. We were taking our child home now. Emily seemed overjoyed to see us. She clung to me and said, "Mommy, you came," which broke my heart, but also relieved me that she still remembered who her mom was. My mom kept hovering, saying, "See, she's fine here. You're upsetting her routine." It was absurd. We're her parents. We are her routine. When we finally got Emily in the car, my mother actually tried to strap herself into the back seat with her, as if she was coming with us. She said, "If you insist on taking her, I'm coming too. She needs me." I firmly told her, no, that's not happening. She started crying and making a scene in the driveway, yelling that I was taking her baby away and that I was cruel and ungrateful after everything she'd done. My dad just stood there looking conflicted, but he didn't tell her she was out of line. My husband had to tell my mom, please step away from the car, as we shut the door. We drove off as she literally screamed behind us. It was traumatic, but I was so relieved to have my little girl back. I decided after that to set very strict boundaries with my parents. For the first couple of weeks home, I limited video calls because I wanted Emily to settle back in with us, without interference. I also immediately re-enrolled her in the therapy she missed. As expected, my mom bombarded me with texts and calls, furious that I was keeping Emily away and accusing me of thinking she's a bad grandmother. She actually said, after all I sacrificed for you, this is how you repay me. Don't forget I basically raised Emily for 4 months. The entitlement was unreal. I calmly told her that we appreciated the help, but her job was done, and we needed some space to get back to normal. That didn't sit well. She started manipulating and guilt-tripping me hardcore. She'd text things like, I can't sleep, I'm so heartbroken missing my grandbaby. I guess I'm only useful to you when you need a free nanny. Or she'd leave voicemails in tears. Please don't do this to me, I love her so much. I'm literally sick worrying about her. Do you want to put me in an early grave? Is that what you want? Because I'll die if I can't be in her life. Yes, she actually said that kind of stuff. Classic emotional blackmail. And it brought back a lot of childhood trauma for me, because she used to threaten to hurt herself when I disobeyed as a kid. I fell for it then, but I'm determined not to let her control me now through fear and guilt. For the next few months, I allowed very limited contact. We'd do a video chat maybe every other week so she could say hi to Emily under my supervision. But I stopped all in-person visits. We live a few states away, which was a saving grace because it meant she couldn't just show up easily. Still, she would hint constantly about visiting. As the holidays approached last year, she demanded we come to their house for Christmas so the whole family can be together. But I knew if we went, she'd try something, or at least make the trip miserable by arguing and undermining me. My husband and I decided to skip visiting them for Christmas, offering instead to video call on Christmas Day. We made up an excuse about his work schedule for why we couldn't travel, to avoid outright war. Well, my mom saw through it, and she exploded. She sent me nasty messages saying I was selfish, denying my father and her the joy of Christmas with their grandchild, etc. She even dragged other family members into it. My aunt texted me that I should let bygones be bygones because holidays are about family. Easy for her to say when she wasn't the one dealing with my mom's behavior. After that blow-up, I went low contact. I needed a break from her drama. A couple of months passed. Then Emily's 3rd birthday came in January, and against my better judgment, I decided to give my parents one more chance to be involved in a healthy way. I felt guilty that Emily wasn't seeing her grandparents much and thought maybe a short, supervised visit at our house for her birthday party would be okay. I set ground rules. They could come to the small party we were throwing at our house, but they had to be respectful and remember we are the parents. My mom agreed in a syrupy-sweet tone that honestly gave me pause, like she was just telling me what I wanted to hear. I should have trusted my gut and not invited them, but I really wanted to believe my daughter could have loving grandparents who wouldn't cause a scene. The birthday party turned into a total disaster because of my mother. At first, she was overly cheerful, almost manic. She brought a huge pile of gifts, mostly stuff we explicitly told her not to buy because we knew what Emily needed and didn't need. She kept pulling Emily aside during the party to whisper things, and at one point, I heard Emily tell another kid, "Grandma says I'm the boss because it's my birthday." Ugh, when it was time to blow out the candles, Mom actually tried to stand next to Emily and help her blow them out, blocking me from even being near my own child during her cake moment. My husband gently but firmly moved in and said, "Come on, let's let Mom and Dad be on either side." I could see the anger flash in my mom's eyes at being directed aside. After cake, Emily opened presents. My mom had one large box she was very eager for Emily to open in front of everyone. It was a custom-made blanket with a giant photo collage of my mom's face with Emily printed all over it. There were dozens of pictures of just Grandma and Emily on this blanket. It was the creepiest, most narcissistic gift, basically her staking her claim. Even my dad quietly said, "Geez, Linda, that's a bit much," which earned him a death glare from her. The worst came at the end of the party. While we were saying goodbye to a couple of friends, I suddenly noticed I couldn't find Emily or my mom. My heart about stopped. One of our friends said, I think I saw your mom carry Emily out front." We rushed outside, and sure enough, my mother was at her car. She had actually brought a car seat and installed it in her back seat without asking, and she was trying to buckle a very scared and crying Emily into that car seat. Emily was wailing, "I want Mommy! No go!" I ran over, yelling, "What are you doing?" My mom jerked around, startled, and started sputtering. "Oh, she was tired. I was just going to take her for a little drive to help her nap." I knew that was BS. She was flat out trying to take off with my child. I grabbed Emily out of the car, and my mom actually tried to block me, yelling, "She jumped in here on her own. She wants to come with me, which was obviously a lie, given my poor baby was clinging to me for dear life. My husband got between us and told my mom to leave now. She started screaming like a banshee. "You can't do this. I'm her grandmother. You have no right to keep her from me. I'll call the police for grandparents' rights, I swear to God." It was unhinged. My dad came running out, apologizing frantically and trying to pull my mom away as she was screaming and sobbing. We told them both to get off our property and that they were no longer welcome. My mom yelled, "This isn't over. You'll be sorry," as my dad finally dragged her to their car. Emily was shaking and crying. We were all pretty shaken. I was done at that point. That was the final straw. I told my husband, "I don't want her in our lives. Not after this." He wholeheartedly agreed. We went no contact immediately. I blocked my parents' numbers, told other family I needed space and they better not give my parents any info on us. We even installed a security camera, and for a while I was paranoid she'd show up somehow. We considered moving entirely, but that takes time and money. Still, we quietly started making a plan to relocate in the next year, just to be safe. A week after the party incident, I got a letter in the mail. Actually, it was addressed to my husband from an attorney in my parents' state. It was a notice that my parents were filing a petition for grandparent visitation rights, and we were being summoned to court in their county. I felt physically ill reading it. Even though she had threatened it, seeing it happen was unreal. My mom is really trying to use the courts to force us to hand over our daughter to the same person who literally tried to kidnap her. The nerve, the audacity. I have no words. We immediately consulted a family law attorney in our state, who connected with a lawyer licensed in their state, since the case was filed there. Thankfully, we have savings, and my in-laws offered to help financially, because this is going to be a legal battle. The attorney explained that grandparents' rights cases vary by state, but generally my parents would have to prove they have a strong existing relationship with Emily and that cutting them off is harming her somehow, or that we, the parents, are unfit in some way. Given that we are fit parents and my mother's behavior is on record, he said they have a very weak case, but he cautioned that it could still drag out and cost us time, stress, and money. Since going no contact, my mother has switched tactics to smear campaign mode. I found out she's been calling relatives and even some of my friends, telling everyone that I'm an unstable mom, that I'm mentally ill. She's referring to my postpartum anxiety I once confided in her about, twisting it to say I'm a danger to my child, and that she has no choice but to seek custody for Emily's sake. She's painting herself as the concerned grandma who is being unjustly cut off. Meanwhile, I have saved voicemails of her screaming threats, and we have that incident at the party as evidence of her instability. We did file a police report about the van incident, by the way. The police took a statement, though we didn't have her arrested. Kinda wish we had, but at the time I just wanted her gone. Our first court date is coming up in a few weeks. I am dreading it. My lawyer is confident, but I grew up under my mother's manipulation. I know how convincing she can be to outsiders. She can turn on this sweet, concerned grandma act in front of a judge, then paint me as the evil daughter keeping her grandbaby away for no reason. I'm terrified the court might somehow buy into her lies or give her some form of visitation. The thought of having to hand my daughter over, even for a weekend, to that woman, it makes me want to scream. She has zero respect for me as a parent or as a person, and I truly fear for my child's emotional well-being if forced into that situation. I keep second-guessing myself. Did I do the right thing going no contact immediately? Should I have tried one more time to reason with them to avoid this legal mess? But every time I waver, I remember the sight of my mother shoving my crying child into a car and my blood boils all over again. We're doing this to protect our daughter. I just hope the court sees that. Has anyone else dealt with something like this? We're in for an ugly fight, and honestly, I'm so stressed I can barely sleep or eat. My mother taught me long ago that she'll stop at nothing to get her way, and now that I'm standing up to her, she's raising the stakes dramatically. Part of me feels like that little kid again, afraid of what mom will do next. But I'm an adult and a mother now, and I have to be strong for my daughter. I feel so betrayed that my own parents would put us through this. Instead of just respecting our boundaries and trying to mend things normally, they'd rather drag us to court. My relationship with them is beyond repair at this point. How do I fight this? How do I protect my baby from my toxic mother's clutches? If anyone has advice or has survived a grandparents' rights battle, I'd really appreciate your wisdom. And if nothing else, thank you for reading this far. I really needed to get this off my chest. Right now, it feels like an impossible battle. It's literally David and me versus my parents and their high-powered attorney. We've lawyered up and gathered evidence, text, the recorded phone call, where she basically said it's all about her wants, testimonies from people who saw her behavior at the party. I'm praying that will be enough. I'll update when I can, but I have no idea when that will be or how it will go. Wish us luck. We need it. Update 1. Hi everyone, I'm back with an update, though unfortunately there's no closure yet. If anything, things have escalated in some wild ways. Buckle up. We had our first court hearing about a week ago. Leading up to it, my anxiety was through the roof. Our lawyer had filed a motion to dismiss the case outright, given that my parents have no legal ground. We're an intact family, and they did not have a substantial relationship with Emily beyond what we allowed. Well, the judge did not dismiss immediately. Instead, she set a date for a full hearing in a few months and, to my dismay, appointed a guardian ad litem, GAL, basically an attorney for the child, to investigate and make a recommendation. This is apparently standard in some grandparent rights cases. I was initially alarmed, but my lawyer said it's not a bad thing. A neutral third party will look into everything, and if we truly are acting in Emily's best interest, it should support us. Still, it means this drags on. In court, my mother's lawyer painted a sob story of how my parents have been in Emily's life since birth, and that I'm cruelly cutting off loving grandparents for no good reason. They actually outright lied, claiming I promised my parents they could have Emily 1 week every month. Insane. I never said any such thing. For the record, part of what my mom is demanding in her lawsuit is 1 week per month, and 2 weeks each summer of unsupervised time with Emily. Yes, she basically wants partial custody. They also brought up that period when Emily stayed with him during my surgery, twisting it to imply I gave them temporary guardianship and now I'm reneging out of spite. I was fuming hearing these lies, but thankfully our lawyer countered with the truth, that it was a short-term emergency caregiving situation, not a formal guardianship, and we took Emily back as soon as I was able, specifically because of concerns about my mom's behavior. We presented the basics of the birthday incident, that my mother attempted to take Emily without permission, and that we have serious worries about Emily's safety and emotional health if visitation were forced. My mom sat there shaking her head, even dabbing her eyes with a tissue as if she's the victim. The judge didn't let anyone go into extreme detail. That will be for the full hearing. But she did sternly remind everyone that the best interest of the child is the sole standard here, not the grandparents' wishes. My mom's lawyer kept insisting it's in Emily's best interest to maintain contact with her grandma because she lived with her for months and they share a strong bond. After the hearing, in the hallway, my mother actually approached me, against our lawyer's advice to have no direct contact. She was crying, all fake sweet, saying, "Why are you doing this? We could settle this if you just let me see my grandbaby." I never meant to scare her at the party, you misunderstood. I was just trying to calm her for a nap. I told her, flatly, that any communication should go through our lawyers. She then switched to anger in a split second. There's the real Linda, hissing that I'm ungrateful and that I'm poisoning Emily against her. I walked away, telling my lawyer I'm not engaging with her alone again. A few days after court, the guardian ad litem reached out to schedule home visits and interviews. I'm nervous but also hopeful to show that our home is loving and stable. We gave the GAL a list of people to talk to who can confirm my mom's erratic behavior, including Emily's speech therapist, who can attest to how my mom disrupted her treatment, and a couple of friends who witnessed the birthday fiasco. The GAL will also interview my parents. That should be interesting, to say the least. Meanwhile, things took another turn for the worse. Somehow, my mother found out what preschool Emily attends. I suspect a flying monkey relative, or maybe a clue from an old Facebook post. Needless to say, I've locked down all social media now. Yesterday, and this still has me rattled, my mom showed up at Emily's preschool during pickup time. Mind you, she lives over 4 hours away, so she must have driven specifically to do this. I got a call from the preschool director saying a woman claiming to be Emily's grandma was there, causing a scene. Apparently, Mom attempted to sign her out, lying to the teacher on duty that Mom asked me to pick her up today. Thank God the school has a policy that only authorized persons can pick up, and I had never authorized my parents. In fact, I had previously warned the director there might be an issue and gave them my parents' names and a picture, instructing them not to release Emily to them. The staff refused, and my mother grew belligerent, yelling that she has rights and that I'm a horrible daughter keeping Emily from her. The staff actually had to threaten to call the police. By the time I got there, I was stuck in traffic and nearly lost my mind. My mother had left. Emily was okay, just confused and a bit scared. She told me, "Grandma was yelling." I was livid and shaken. We alerted our lawyer right away. He advised us to document this incident with the court, as it bolsters our case that my mother does not respect boundaries or the law. We've since filed for a restraining order against my mother on behalf of ourselves and Emily. I hope a judge grants it. This woman is out of control. So now, not only are we battling in court, but I feel like I'm fighting off a real-life kidnapping threat. We're looking into changing preschools and maybe moving sooner rather than later. My trust in her staying away is zero. My father actually called me last night. His number wasn't blocked like my mom's, basically to apologize for my mom's actions at the school. He sounded worn down and said, "You know how she gets. I'm sorry I tried to stop her. It's sad because I think he knows deep down she's wrong, but he's completely under her thumb and won't truly stand up to her. I told him this has to stop or I will have her arrested next time. He just sighed and said, "I understand. She's not well." That, unexpectedly, made me burst into tears after hanging up. Part of me feels pity, but mostly I'm just exhausted by this never-ending drama caused by her being not well. I'm keeping a paper trail of everything. The silver lining is that the GAL called me today and I told her about the preschool incident. She was very concerned to hear it and said she will include it in her report. Small win there, I guess. To those who gave advice and support, thank you. This is by far the hardest thing I've ever gone through. It's like my mother is hell-bent on proving that if she can't have her way, she'll burn everything down. But I refuse to let her drag my daughter down with her. David and I are united on this, thank God. He's been my rock, keeping me sane and reminding me that we are doing the right thing, even when her tactics make me doubt myself. Next steps. We have a hearing in a few weeks for the restraining order, and the big trial with the GAL's findings is a couple of months away. I will update again when there's more news. I hope it's a positive update, but at this rate, I've learned to brace for the worst. Thanks again for listening to our ongoing saga. Please hug your kids, and be glad if you have sane parents, because this ordeal is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. Update 2. I wish I had a happier update, but things have taken a devastating turn, and I'm still trying to process it. I'm not even sure how to write this because I am in pieces right now. We finally had our follow-up court hearing, the one where the guardian ad litem would present her report, and the judge would make some decisions. Going in, I was cautiously optimistic. The Gale's report, which we got to read beforehand, was largely in our favor. It mentioned my mother's inappropriate behavior, her disregard for boundaries, the attempted preschool pickup, etc. It did note that Emily had a loving bond with her grandparents in the past, but emphasized that my mom's actions were potentially harmful to Emily. The GAL recommended if any visitation were granted, it should be minimal and supervised, if at all. Our lawyer was pretty confident the judge would see that my mother's not acting in Emily's best interests. Well, the hearing was a roller coaster. My mother actually took the stand, since this turned into a quasi-custody hearing. She put on an Oscar-worthy performance, crying about how much she misses her baby. Yes, she referred to Emily as her baby on the stand, which made my blood boil. She spun this narrative that because I had so many health issues, my heart condition, and she even dragged my past postpartum anxiety into it, and because I abandoned Emily with them for months. What? I never abandoned her. It was a medical necessity. She, as a caring grandmother, had to step up. She claimed I'm ungrateful, and now mentally unstable and vindictive, keeping Emily away to hurt her. It was basically character assassination. I was shaking with anger, and also feared that the judge might believe some of it. Our lawyer presented our side. We are fit parents, we simply choose to limit contact for very valid reasons, and my parents have no inherent rights to override our decisions. He highlighted how extreme my mother's requests were. She was still pushing for overnight visits unsupervised. We submitted photos from the birthday incident. Yes, one of our friends snapped a photo of her putting Emily in the van, and a copy of the preschool's incident report from when she showed up there. The judge seemed disturbed by those, thankfully. Then came the moment I dreaded, the judge's ruling. She started by admonishing my mother, essentially saying that her behavior deeply concerned the court, and that grandparents need to respect parental boundaries. She said no grandparent has the right to act like a parent when the actual parents are fit and present. I was silently cheering inside hearing that. I thought, this is it, we've won. But then the judge continued. She said that while she would not be granting my mother's outrageous request for 1 week a month, hell no, she was inclined to allow some visitation, because Emily did spend significant time with my parents, and appeared to have a bond with them. She said she didn't want to sever that bond without giving it a chance in a controlled way. My heart dropped. The judge decided to order supervised visitation. Basically, starting next month, my parents can have 1 day-long visit with Emily, once every 2 months, at a supervised visitation center near us. That was far more than I wanted. I wanted no visitation. But the judge framed it as a test period. She explicitly warned my mother that if there is any funny business, any attempt to overstep or alienate, the visits will be terminated permanently. The judge also granted a formal restraining order outside of those visits, meaning my parents cannot come near us or Emily except for the scheduled sessions at the center. I felt so torn hearing this. On one hand, it's far less than what my mother wanted. It's a big slap down to her ego to have to be supervised and see Emily so infrequently. On the other hand, I did not want even that concession. I do not trust her at all. But our lawyer whispered that this was actually a pretty strong outcome, given that some judges might have allowed more frequent contact. He advised us to accept it for now, as fighting it further immediately could backfire. My mother's reaction in court was telling. She looked, well, hard to describe, a mix of relief that she got something, and fury at the conditions and infrequency. She actually tried to object, asking for unsupervised shorter visits instead, but the judge shut her down firmly. You're in no position to negotiate here, Mrs. Last Name. After court, I retreated to the bathroom and just sobbed. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like this nightmare will never fully be over. Yes, the worst-case scenario, her getting unsupervised access or, God forbid, partial custody, didn't happen. But now I have to take my daughter to a visitation center to see the woman who has tormented me my whole life and act civil for a few hours while someone watches. The idea of sitting there as she interacts with Emily, likely trying to fill her head with who knows what, though the monitor will prevent overt alienation, makes me sick. However, if I refuse to comply, I become the one in contempt of court. So I'm stuck. To top it off, after the ruling, my mom actually had the gall to approach me again, with our lawyers present, to say, "We could have avoided all this, I hope you're happy." I just said, "I'll do whatever it takes to protect my daughter from now on." And she replied, "I am your mother. You can't protect her from me. I'll always be a part of her life one way or another." It sounded almost like a threat, even though she used a sweet tone. I walked away and let my lawyer handle any further words.